All right. Good morning, ladies. Welcome to In Search of Prosperity Sisterhood. I'm so glad you're here with us this morning. And anytime you choose to jump on and get a pep talk, share your words, ask your questions, whatever that might be. So thank you for being here. This morning, I wanted to dive right in and talk about the word balance. And I decided, okay, if balance is where we start in this series leading up to a pricing for prosperity workshop, where does it start? Well, you need to know how much you're going to work and invest in your business and how much you need to make, right? Your goals and ambitions, and then where your motivations are. So we talked a little bit about this in previous workshops and conversations, in talking about like what your priorities are and your passions and things like that. But then the word balance comes up, and it's like this cuss word in the world of self-development, self-discovery, self-improvement, balance. And yet we need it. But the problem is we have too many examples of what it could look like via social media when you're only getting a snapshot of what they are focusing on and sharing with you, right? You don't know what the rest of their world looks like. And yet you're like, oh, I wish I had that perfect little balance where, yeah, they can crop a video where it's 50% home and family and 50% work and business. Like, it's an easy math thing when you talk about how they're presenting themselves on social media in some form. So a couple other words I wrote down and then a couple definitions I found are things that I want to share with you this morning. So when we think about balance, I want you to think about your focus, your goals, your priorities, and then what does that season look like? Season is a whole nother word. My husband hates the word season and journey. He's just like, no. Anytime he hears that anywhere, he's like, grr, I wish they would stop saying those words. But let's just define it. Instead of blanket, the word balance, the word season, or journey, or goals, or focus, or any of these words, instead of just blanketing them out and expecting them to look like they do on Pinterest or Instagram, let's define them for ourselves. That's the challenge I lay on you ladies today. What does that look like for you? In working towards other things, you have your why. And that's another one that everybody has their own opinion on, or they just say, know your why. Well, good for you, right? What about your so that statement that we shared with ourselves or with each other in our workshop just last month on goals and your vision and how you work that through into your daily actions? Your so that statement. How does that reflect the current season that you are in? And then how do you communicate that with your family and your colleagues? So a couple definitions, or like when you Google something, the meaning of it gives you a description and then highlights something. So I wrote down some of the highlighted things. I giggle at myself because a few years ago, one of my old bosses was like, why don't you just Google it? I'm like, I don't know. I'm intimidated by the internet and I'd rather learn by people. I don't know. And he just couldn't understand it because I'm young, but didn't Google things. And so here I am Googling some different definitions for us to all reflect on and see what that looks like for us. So when you Google the word balance, what does balance mean? I wrote down in correct proportions. evenly distributed. Well, I'm sorry, there ain't nothing even about life, right? There's gonna be times where you're laid up or you are hitting something really hard, right? And making things happen. So the word correct, incorrect proportions, what's that even supposed to mean? So the challenge is, what's right for me? What's right for this season, this situation, this goal? Incorrect proportions. So that makes me think of um the quote, what you appreciate appreciates. What you focus on grows, right? What you magnify magnifies or multiplies, whatever the quotes are, right? So every piece to that puzzle has its time and place, and every season, every goal has those percentages change. So there's that flow between them. Um, so like I recently experienced maternity leave. Well, that was a huge part of what I focused on for that time, right? And so now that part has gotten smaller and more evened out or proportional to maybe the other parts of my life. But the even just Googling this, incorrect proportions, like, what does that even mean? There's Yet there's no rules. And balance schmalance, I had to say it out loud because it came to my head. Um, but what is correct? It's what is right for me at this time, in this season, on this journey, in the blah, 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 right? I say those words and react that way. Yes, because I'm also like well, I'm a Scorpio and I'm not very good at conforming to whatever the things are that they call rules. So then the word correct is like, oh, really? Like, can you define that for me? Because I'm pretty sure it would be hard for someone else to define it for me. What is correct for me? Okay. And as things come up for you, ladies, write them in the chat. Raise your hand. Do your thing. Do a dance. I don't care. I wrote another quote down. I've got some dancing over there. I wrote another quote down in my Google search, and that was someone who is in balance, or no, sorry, someone who is balanced remains calm and thinks clearly, even in a difficult situation. So that to me, the way I read that, someone who is balanced remains calm and thinks clearly, even in a difficult situation. That means that person got up and did their morning routine before they answered an email. They brushed their teeth before they got in the shower. So someone who's balanced and remains calm and thinks clearly, even in a difficult situation. That person paused before they responded, or paused before they shifted gears into the next conversation, into the next thing on their to-do list. It's someone who knows where the chaos is and where it belongs in their life, and that it is not the glitter of their life that is stuck to everything. It allows them to flow from one situation to the next without getting hung up. Remains calm and thinks clearly, even in difficult situations. Because think about it, like if for myself, like if I'm out of balance, I didn't get my me time this morning. So now I have this thing that came up and now I'm mad about it because I didn't brush my teeth this morning. Like the two things are not related, but if you make them related, are you in balance? No, just makes me think like the idea of being unbalanced in this quotation. Or makes me think of the word presence. Like if you're present, those other things, those other whatever, they don't matter. You're there. Good, bad, or indifferent. Difficult situation, easy situation, you're there. The other things on your to-do list, the other things that require your attention and focus throughout the day, week, month, whatever it is, in that moment, you're able to think clearly and remain calm because you're present. Just kind of makes me, cross point at each other, the word balance and the word presence. So then this last quote that I wrote down, balance entails allocating time and time and energy to specific activities and redirecting them. So balance entails allocating time and energy to specific activities and redirecting them. And then here's another word, harmony. Harmony requires deeply understanding your motivations and goals. That's pretty cool, right? Harmony. I don't know, the word harmony. So you brought up presence and balance because you're the one cutting the pie, cutting the pizza, whatever it is. You're the one cutting it up. So you get to determine what size all those pieces of your life are, right? In that season. And we choose season, for us, at least in the US, that's like 3 to 5 months, depending on how, I don't know, just depending on the weather, right? A season is 3 to 5 months. So then you have a stopping point, you have an end point, you have something to look forward to, right? In some way or another. But then the idea of harmony requires that deep understanding of your motivations and your goals. So when you take that back to the difficult situations, or harmony, being able to remain calm and think clearly, you're separating yourself, but also focusing at the same time. So this elusive idea of balance, I think it comes down to those two words, presence and harmony. And then when you can understand yourself, right, the deep understanding of your motivations and your goals, then you know what to say yes and no to. Or not now, right? You can always say later. Call me in whatever, right? You do that to salespeople, you can do it to yourself, right? You can say, all right, this is my focus. Our friend on here, Brandy, she does this where she focuses on a certain thing in her life for a certain time period, right? So she's like, oh, I really want to learn about that when I focus or expand this piece of my life. So I'm going to put that book on my book list for that month. So it's not in her day-to-day, like coming up, and like, I don't want to do that in February. I said I would do that in July, right? And so she puts that on July's list and then forgets about it until she opens that page to July, right? So it's that idea of knowing where you're at, what season you're in, where your focus is at, what motivates you, what those goals are, and finding that presence and that harmony as you go along and say yes or no to the big things, the small things, the indeterminate things. And that leads me to the idea of communication. How are you communicating that? One thing we talked about last week in discussion was speaking life into something. Sometimes it's just big and hairy and scary, and yet it is just heavy on you. It is part of what you need to be focusing on right now. And yet maybe you don't know how or what that exactly means. So talking about it, free form. Then you also have the communication that can be a script, that can be something that you copy and paste. I have another friend who's going through a certification right now, and she has taken things off of her plate. And then she's also set things forward, right? Setting another goal, setting another vision. She said, well, my certification and all this stuff and the test comes on this day. So I'm not taking applications or considering other things until this day. And that way she's able to stop the conversation because she doesn't want it to use her brain space right now. She's able to grab onto it later. And those scripts and those communications are amazing. They're even better when we can use them on ourselves. Because sometimes we want to lose focus or be distracted or what have you. And so sometimes we need those scripts or those conversations with ourselves. And now affirmations, I will back that up all day long. Affirmations are a fantastic way to do that. The other is speaking life into it, right? Having those conversations with others that boost ourselves and help us create better language around it all. And all of these things, the balance, the harmony, the presence, they leave us empowered and ready and willing and motivated to work that timeline and work it backwards into our today and say, this is what I'm doing so that whatever that is in this season. So with that, my question I want to leave with you is the question I started with. And that's I'm having a tough time with words today. What is right for you right now in this season, in the first quarter of the year, the second quarter of the year, whenever you're listening to this? What is right for me? Balance, harmony, presence. What are your definitions of those things? I encourage you to write your own definitions and then communicate that. So with that, we're going to go into our live discussion. And I know Stevie had said she has a question going into our discussion. So I'm super excited to see what that's about. Because sometimes our discussions, we go back 10 episodes or whatever you want to call these discussions, right? And things resurface and things change, like life and business and situations and things always come up. So sometimes our discussion takes a hard left turn, and sometimes it goes straight down the middle. So I'm super excited to have that, and I'm super excited to have you here. So thank you for being with us today, and we will catch you next time.